Welcome to the Heartland CrimeStoppers Show. I'm your host, Chip Brown. Heartland CrimeStoppers is a program designed to help law enforcement. It helps them by taking anonymous tips and paying monetary rewards for information that results in an arrest, recovery of stolen property, or recovery of illegal drugs. The news media and the public and Heartland CrimeStoppers makes CrimeStoppers work. On today's show, we're coming to you from Florida Polytechnic University. We'll be talking to Chief Rick Holland. Chief, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks, Chip, for having me.
Now, tell us a little bit about when the police department was formed and some of the history of it.
Wow, I mean, it was established in July 1st, 2014. I came aboard in June 3rd of 2014. A lot of MOs had to be done. We partnered with the City of Lakeland really quick to get established reference to our FBI numbers, to our FDLE numbers, because you just can't just appear one day and be a police agency. So we actually had a petition and had to show a blueprint to the state and also to the FBI saying, hey, this is what we're planning on, and this is what the statute that requires. A lot of people don't know that every state university in Florida has to have their own police department. So that's how we were created.
And that's part of the state statute. It's mandated that if you're a state university, they have their own law enforcement agency.
Yes, sir. And so we started out, it was just me and the deputy chief at that point in time. And
just two
officers. So we knew real quick we had to actually hire somebody to actually do 24-hour service because we have students coming in August of that year. So we were scrambling around because there's no way to hire police officers in, here it is July, and August is right around the corner. So we decided to do contract security. Contract security was very quick, get them in and pay a fee while we're actually trying to build and get police officers on. So in that short period of time, we realized that after a couple of months, we really don't want the contract security because the community policing model expects to see that same person over and over again. And there's no buy-in. They're contract security, so they're here at this site one day and they're over at Polk State or somewhere else another day.
I was thinking the exact same thing. It's that continuity in law enforcement and personnel is just so important.
Yes. So we realized really quick while we were trying to get the police officers, all the background checks and everything else done, we were targeting for January 1st of 2015 to get 6 officers up. In the meantime, we realized that contract security is not really the way we want to go. I mean, we really want to have that buy-in and that commitment, the heart and soul of the agency. So we decided to hire 5 public safety officers to get that continuity while we were still getting to the police officers, which worked out great. In fact, 2 of the 5 are still here. The other one that we actually made it into a police officer. He actually was a retired cop from Lake Wells police sergeant. Said, I'm done with the toting the gun. And then shortly after that, he realized he still wanted to carry a gun. So we hired him as one of our 6 officers at that point in time. But now, I mean, we've grown. I mean, over time, we're able to, finagle some more positions. So right now we have 10 police officers. And then we have 4 support personnel with our latest hire, which was Bill Lapere, that you'll talk to later, our accreditation manager. So we have 10 officers. We have 2 public safety officers, which are kind of like security guards. They're not sworn, but they wear different uniforms, but they're not bonded. And then we have my executive secretary, which is my right-hand person. She's into everything in reference to all the other CJIS requirements and FDLE requirements and all that stuff for us.
Now, one of the interesting things is that as you have hired people, you have really, including yourself, be able to bring with you and the other officers just a treasure chest of experience and knowledge.
I put our department against any in the United States for our size. You won't find one. I bank my reputation on that. Usually you have high turnover rates because they're smaller agencies, so they're getting people that have been fired from other agencies or just brand new right out of the academy, they need experience, and then they go to a larger agency. So there's a turnover. Here we got the same crew. And what's so nice is the average police officer years of experience is about 28 years. We got over 300 years of experience. You can't put a price tag on that. And they come from so much diverse backgrounds, from traffic homicide to robbery, sex crimes, to fraud investigators, to you name it, they've done it. And then on top of that, I've got some supervisors along with that. But it's like coming to work every day with all your friends that you've seen throughout the years. My deputy chief, me and him went to high school together. Worked at Sears and Roebuck when I was going through the police academy. So how neat is that? I tried to talk him into going to the academy with me, but then he's like, nah. He came in later. But how nice is it to finish my career with him?
Yeah, and being able to, like I say, to draw on that experience when you need it, no matter what the situation comes up. There's going to be somebody, in that group of officers that's working, or make a quick phone call, or check out later to get back. But it's just that experience and not having them to go through that learning curve that can be so painful for them and for the agency sometimes.
Oh, I totally agree. They have the foundation. They don't have to just like run a bike. They already know how to ride the bike, and so they can just keep on getting on and ride it. You get a brand new person out of the police academy, there's not enough call volume to establish that platform to their foundation, more or less.
Now I know that when you first started, it wasn't funny, but it was so bad that it was funny. With the cars that you had, they were cast-off cars, and
they were cast-off cars that had almost 200,000 miles in them. And I always joked because one car we used to say that it took care of two businesses. One, law enforcement, and the other one, mosquito repellent, because they thought it was fogger that was coming out because of the loud noise and the smoke. Well, that was smoke from the car. So.
But now I noticed you have, been able to upgrade a number of those. And
yeah, we've got numerous brand new cars that we've gotten through a lease program, top of the line. Especially, a lot of my guys aren't, young, whippersnappers anymore. They're older guys. So we try to go with the Florida Explorers. They give them more room and get in and out. But we've got all the top-notch equipment, all the high-tech equipment, such as AR-15s to ballistic shields to everything a normal deputy or normal police officer would carry. Even though we're a technical college, you still prepare for that worst case scenario.
Now it was interesting when you had mentioned earlier, we were before the show, that the Florida Poly, besides having almost 900 people that live on campus, that these are the top 1% of their graduating class. So you really. This is really a specialty college.
Yeah, my son goes here, so I can kind of say that, he's technical, socially awkward at times, but yeah, this is like the A team of colleges. They come here because they're the riders of the bride. These are the future researchers, astronaut, gathering stuff for robotics and everything else. So it's very a high-tech school, and a lot of pressure that goes on here with the amount of classes that they take, and also the technology of those classes.
I noticed also, again, looking at the website, there's a number of activities that these students can participate in.
They have intramural games. They have all kind of different competitions, from hackathons to Polycon and all that stuff. And truly, my deputy chief came up with the idea, which is a natural-based thing, is conversation with the cops, over coffee and the cops. That didn't hit too well because most of the college kids don't get up until noon, so that kind of went over like a hot air balloon. So we started coming up with different things that we would have good things with. Pizza with the cops. Who doesn't like pizza? So they can get a slice of pizza, talk to us. There's no agendas. Mm-hmm. We get a good turnout with that. And then the police officers just took over that and started coming up with different things like grilling with the cops by the pool, ping pong with the cops. They actually have competition with the students, and the officers actually go out and buy gift cards and say whoever beats me and the winner of these tournaments gets this gift card. So they've come up with all kind of pool with the cops, just anything that's innovative. But again, it goes right back to the core I was talking about, is the community policing philosophy. It's truly working here.
Exactly.
As in bigger law enforcement agencies, you can't do that because you're call to call, and you're putting a Band-Aid over something that might have been taken over for 30 years in 5 minutes. Here, you got to spend time 4 years with that student to actually let them graduate.
I know you had mentioned earlier, again before we came on the air, about some of the As these people graduate, how they will come to you or write you notes about thanking you for helping them through different things. Tell us a little bit what you can about that.
You know, you can't put a price tag on when a student might have slipped up throughout the time that he's here, to the point where you had to bring him in and reel him in because maybe he got caught with alcohol underage or marijuana use, but they didn't go through the criminal justice system. You got them on the right track, and then that fourth year when they graduate, their parents they're introducing you to their parents, saying, hey, look, this is the reason why I made it. And they give you a hug, and the parents give you a hug, and it's like, great. You know, it's not uncommon. We have parents that come up to us, and I wish they would get more healthier, alternatives, but they bring cookies and donuts and everything else. Nothing green and nothing healthy. So with that, we have that constantly, and the parents' thank you notes. It almost you have to pinch yourself, and those guys that first come in and gals that first come in to be that cop here. They're like, when am I going to wake up? What's nice is everybody here wants to see you because they know that you're here to protect them. So it's not like the interaction you have out in the public where it's always negative. When's the last time you heard somebody call 911 to thank a cop? That doesn't happen. Here, every day, someone's thanking you. Hey, thank you for your service. Thank you for being here. So it's great. It's a great atmosphere.
And that just means so much, being a former law enforcement officer myself, to get that, other than the negative stuff and the positive stuff. And it sounds like you've really done a great job getting it to where the agency is now and looking forward to what it does in the future.
Well, I tell you, I always say this, and it's true. I've stood on shoulders of giants. Yourself, Bill Lapere, and all the colleagues I've ever worked with. And it's the men and women that I have working for me that have given me that opportunity to shine, because without them, I wouldn't be where I'm at.
Chief, thank you so much for your time today, and ask you and your staff to stick around for the second half of the show.
Okay, thank you.
Here's a look at some of our most recent cases.
Can you help identify this subject? On November 25th, around 2:30 p.m., the subject in the photos went into the Metro PCS store located at 1180 Havendale Boulevard. The subject inquired about an iPhone 12. As the manager took the phone out of the packaging, the subject reached over the counter, grabbed the phone from the hand of the manager, and ran out the store. He was last seen running westbound on Havendale Boulevard. Now, in addition to the black t-shirt and jeans and fanny pack with a white emblem, the subject has multiple tattoos on his right arm. Anyone with any information should call Detective Maldonado at 863-837-0946. There's a $10,000 reward for information that leads to an arrest. The Haines City Police Department is looking for the public's help in obtaining information that will lead to an arrest of shooter or shooters who killed a Haines City man and injured 3 others at 9 p.m. Thursday, November 19th. Oscar Lee Hendricks, 36, was fatally shot, and 3 others were hospitalized with gunshot wounds during a drive-by where there were more than 30 shots fired in the area of North 15th Street in Haines City. 3 vehicles were shot, and numerous other people, including children, were put in harm's way. This all went down at Walmart 355 Cypress Gardens Boulevard on November 30th around 6:20 p.m. They brought in the 43-inch TV, and the female took the TV to the service desk for a refund. The receipt used was from a Walmart in another city. She obtained the refund while the male went back to the electronics and selected the exact same brand and size TV. He then walked out with no attempt to pay. After, he also stopped and grabbed a cold drink from the cooler at the front. If you recognize either of these two, please call Detective Cop at 863-401-2256. If you have any information on any of the cases you've just seen or any information on an unsolved crime, please contact Heartland Crime Stoppers and leave an anonymous tip. The toll-free tip line is 1-800-226-TIPS. That's 8477. You can also leave an anonymous web tip by going to www.heartlandcrimestoppers.com and click on the Give a Tip tab, or by going to www.p3tips.com. Don't forget, you can download our free P3 Tips app on your smart device. Whichever way you choose to leave a tip, you will remain 100% anonymous. If your tip results in an arrest, the recovery of stolen property, or the recovery of illegal drugs, you could be eligible for a cash reward of up to $3,000.
Welcome back to the Heartland Crime Stoppers show. I'm your host, Chip Brown. On this section of the show, we'll be talking to Deputy Chief Danny Hauser and also to Accreditation Manager Bill Lapere. Danny, tell us a little bit about your background as you first came to Florida Poly.
I retired from the city of Auburndale, almost did 26 years there as a commander, and kind of versed, smaller agency, so there was a lot of things going on. When the chief invited me to come and apply for the department, at the time I really wasn't sure I wanted to do it. I was thinking about getting out of law enforcement altogether. But my mom put it in perspective for me and said, "How many brand new police departments do you know of?" And I said, "In my career, I don't know of any." She goes, "Well, then it'll be a legacy. Can you live with a legacy?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I never thought about it like that." So, and it was a great blessing to be able to work with somebody who I graduated with, went to high school with, as he said earlier. We worked at Sears together. He tried to get me to go in '96 with him to the police academy. I didn't go till '88, but to work with him over the years with the sheriff's office, when he was at the sheriff's office and here, and then to be able to finish our career together has been beautiful.
Now, Bill, tell us a little bit about your background. I know myself most of it, but I don't think the viewers do.
Well, we certainly worked together over the years. I'm a retired assistant chief from the Lakeland Police Department, and upon retiring from the sworn side there, I came back and did 6 years as the communications center manager for their 911 comm center, dispatching for Lakeland Police and Lakeland Fire Department. During that time, I had the opportunity to serve as the department's accreditation manager for law enforcement, as well as the accreditation manager for the communications center. So my background is in not only just sworn operations, but in the accreditation management.
Danny, going back to you, y'all have just completed the accreditation.
That's correct.
For your agency, and tell us how important that is to an agency and to the community itself.
Well, it wasn't just important to that, but it was important to the chief's vision, my vision, and the people that we brought on's vision. As Chief explained to you earlier, everybody that we brought in here is from an accredited police agency. So since day one, we've been running our agency like an accredited police agency because we knew that one day we would like to become accredited. So with that being said, I started moving forward since day one, collecting policies from other accredited agencies, putting them together, starting, because we had no playbook, zero playbook, no policies, no procedures. It was as chalkboard could get. So we started putting things together until we got to a point a couple years later where we really started talking about bringing in somebody to put all this stuff that I've jumbled together, all the policies, to get that fine tuning, that 10%. And Bill's name was at the top of the list from the get-go because we've worked with him hand in hand, and he does such a tremendous job that we knew that he could take what I had collected and fine tune it and take us to the next level. And that's exactly what happened.
I know talking earlier to Chief Holland, he talked about how they were afraid working out of a double-wide trailer they wouldn't be able to get accredited.
Yes, that was my first fear. And then we brought Bill over one afternoon and said, "Hey, do you think you can do this in a trailer?" He goes, "Absolutely." And that's exactly what we needed to hear, and it was full steam ahead after that.
Well, Bill, coming back to you, tell us when you first came on board and saw this, because I remember today seeing what needed to be done on that chalkboard that you talked about, and it was a really big chalkboard. Tell us how you approach this and what you had to do.
Accreditation is about an agency having state-of-the-art policies and procedures, rules, regulations, and the training to prepare their members to do their jobs appropriately. So when I took a look at what Danny and Rick had put together for their general orders, our policy statements, they were in strong, really good shape. They had, as Danny mentioned earlier, prepared like an accredited agency. So it was a matter of fine-tuning what they had already done and kind of guiding them through the nuances of an accreditation process. I use the analogy of the ship coming into port. And the ship's under the command of the captain, but there's a harbor pilot that guides that ship into the harbor, and that's exactly what I had to do. I just guided them through the nuances of the accreditation process and the rules and the nuances that come with being an accredited agency. They had established a strong leadership philosophy, if you will, from the get-go, and so it made it very easy to wrap up the accreditation process because of the initial work that they had done.
Now, as I understand, there's 270 something.
239, but who's counting?
239. It just seemed like 270.
There's a lot of standards. Some apply to us, some don't. We don't have a Marine unit, so we didn't have to comply with the Marine Patrol standard. We don't have K-9 units. But for a small agency, we have to be prepared to conduct appropriate field investigations, criminal investigations, assist victims of crimes, conduct our HR functions like any top-notch agency does, and they do here. It's well run. We have to be prepared for the ultimate active shooters that could happen on a small campus like this. We need to be prepared with bloodborne pathogens because it could happen on a campus like this. Hazardous materials at a Polytechnic University is not unheard of, so we have to be prepared to deal with that. Yeah,
I noticed a nuclear sign on coming here to the studio this morning, so.
You got to be prepared for anything. And so where we've got the officers that have the years of experience, they're prepared to deal with these types of critical events or incidents, and they're prepared to deal with the initial threat to the students, should it be something like an active assailant, but they're also prepared to deal with the students when they're in a crisis moment, when they're having a behavioral health episode, and so they need somebody to talk to. The officers here are prepared to deal with somebody who doesn't need the criminal justice system to help guide them through some of life's challenges, but the other alternatives that exist to help somebody. And ultimately, these officers are here to support the students through their education process as opposed to being law enforcers.
Danny, coming back to you for a moment, this was obviously with a staff of 8, and you had to hire, an accreditation manager. You really had the support of your university to help get this done.
We did. We had to really have them understand it. It would be like us trying to understand some of the things they do. They were kind enough to get involved to see what we do day in and day out. So they could buy into what we were doing. We went from just the 2 of us. Now we have the 10 full-time officers, the 2 public safety officers, our part-time accreditation, which wears a mini hat, and our administrative assistant. But there's not one person here that doesn't wear several hats. And when I say several hats, there's a lot of hats that you're going to wear at a small agency. You just can't do it by yourself. There's no one to pick up the phone and go, oh, I need you to do this. Oh, I'm the only one here to do that. I got to take care of this. And so those are some of the things. I couldn't be more prouder of the folks that we have here because, as Bill will tell you, at a larger agency like the size of Lakeland, trying to get proofs is like pulling eye teeth. It wasn't that hard at all for our folks. They need a proof. It was handy. It was ready to go. Because they've already had buy-in. They knew what they were trying to do, what we were trying to accomplish. So if I asked for something, probably the hardest conversation was between Bill and I at times, larger agency, smaller agency, and trying to find a happy medium. How are we going to get this to work and get the training together so that we can make sure that we pass it on to our folks the right way, but also do our top-notch job?
Bill, coming back to you, the importance, you talked about it earlier, but and Danny, we just alluded to it, whether you're like the sheriff's office that has 1,100 employees or Lakeland that has 235, I believe, Auburndale's 65, I think is what.
I don't know what their numbers are these days.
Or an agency with 8 people. Tell us how the accreditation process is so important regardless of the agency size.
The community invests in their law enforcement agency through monetary contributions, tax dollars, tuition dollars here at the university, but they also invest in the authority to provide police services to the community. And that could be intervention through critical times of mental health issues, could be the power of arrest, it could be use of force, it could be seizure of evidence or property. The authority that's invested in these officers is predicated on their actions being top-notch and consistent with law and policies and procedures. Accreditation establishes those policies and procedures consistent with the industry-leading standards. So when we effect an arrest or help somebody who's having a mental health crisis or just interact with somebody on a day-to-day basis as a crime victim, it's important that the public know that our policies, our procedures, our training has not only met, but in some situations exceeds industry standards. And I think that is a vote of confidence to the parents and the students who send their children, their young adults to the college here, that they're turning those kids over to a university with a police department that is exceptional.
And that's so important for the students and the family, knowing that the level of service, although it be from a 10-member department, that service is going to meet the standards and be almost similar, whether it was, again, from Lakeland PD or the Polk County Sheriff's Office or, Tallahassee Police Department or wherever. They have that expectation, and they know that if they have an interaction, with an officer, it's going to be professional, it's going to meet standards, and it's not going to be some, well, I think this is what we should do on that. I mean, it really sets the bar high for the community and for the agency.
Absolutely. As a parent who had two children that went to college, you want them to go off into a safe environment. You want them to be serviced well by the local law enforcement agency, and that's what's happening here. It's a safe campus, policed with members who fully share the commitment to supporting these young students as they become tomorrow's leaders in STEM.
Well, Bill, Danny, thank you so very much for being on the show and enlightening us a little bit more about the details of the accreditation. And just thank you so much for what you have done in your prior history in law enforcement, and for what you're doing for Florida Polytechnic University. It's going to be really exciting to watch this facility grow over the years. I know there's new construction going on now. There's new programs. And just it's going to be so exciting for us in the community to watch as Florida Polytechnic takes off.
Thank you, Chip.
Thank you, Chip.
I'd like to thank Chief Rick Holland, Deputy Chief Danny Hauser, and Accreditation Manager Bill Lapere for their time today on the show. Been very interesting, and I hope you have learned more about not only what accreditation is, but what these officers for Florida Polytechnic are doing for the community. That's going to do it for this edition of the Heartland Crime Stoppers show. You can reach us on the web at heartlandcrimestoppers.com or on Facebook at Heartland Crime Stoppers Florida. We thank you for your time today, and if you have any information on the unsolved crime or criminal activity, please leave an anonymous tip with Heartland Crime Stoppers, because you can make sure that they don't get away with it.